Welcome to the second installment of Jacob's Rail Expedition. In this episode, we'll be visiting the Hamlet Depot and Museums and the Southeastern Narrow Gauge and Shortline Museum. Both museums hold local railroading history in the U.S. state of North Carolina.
Now, Hamlet was one of the first. We always said we were the first and bragging about the first, but we were the first to have Coca-Cola Bottling Company here.
We begin in the eastern half of North Carolina in the town of Hamlet at the Hamlet Depot and Museums. We are joined by two railroading individuals on our trip to learn about the trains that visited the town of Hamlet. We first talked with the museum president, Sam Ballard.
I'm Sam Ballard. I lived in Hamlet about all my life. I started work on the railroad when I was 19 in 1960. I retired in 2002 with 41 and a half years service. And I was a railroad conductor all the time. All right, if you look on the other side over there, you can see where it comes in there and around there. Yeah, that's where the depot was. They picked it up. I had to turn it sideways to be on the same place here in case they ever had a run it from Wilmington all the way to Charlotte. Have a passenger train that way, then it would be in place for that. And also it was in place for this. And the reason they moved it, because if you'll see, there's 3 tracks here, and people would be over there,
What Sam is telling us is that the depot itself was actually lifted off of its original foundation, turned around, and moved to the current spot just across the tracks. The move was prompted by the CSX Railroad from rising safety concerns with visitors crossing the tracks on foot to get to the depot. There is a special documentary on display inside the depot showing how it was moved.
The plans look simple on paper. Realign Main Street to provide a new space for the depot. Pick the depot up. Rotate it for its new location. Move it south across the tracks. Put the depot down. But the reality turns out to be far more complex than the board game of Monopoly it seems to mimic.
One of the things I love about this museum is just the architecture, how it's built. Plus, you don't really, I think nowadays, you don't really see too many depots like this. But yeah, this is historical significance. Because nowadays, with a lot of Amtrak stations, they're more modern. But this one, it really is a step back in time when you enter the depot, when you see all the artifacts from the railroading back in the day. Back in the heyday, when the Hamlet Depot, when train travel was one of the primary ways to get out and about, there was a lot of trains that would stop here, drop off passengers, and take on passengers. Were they about like in the 20s a day, over 20 trains a day?
23 trains a day ran through here, going on all directions. They went this way, went towards Charlotte. This way went to Wilmington. You break off there and go down toward Florence. That goes to Raleigh, and that goes to Columbia, South Carolina. So we had 5 different directions out here that trains went.
One of the things visitors might not expect upon their first visit is that the Hamlet Depot is an active Amtrak station. Amtrak Silver Star runs between Miami and New York. With various stops along the way, halfway on its trip is Hamlet, North Carolina. The train stops at this very platform to load and unload passengers. Next, we talked with museum volunteer Tyree Massagee.
My name's Tyree Massagee. I'm born and raised in Hamlet, been here all my life. I hired out with the railroad at the age of 18 in 1978. I hired out as a clerk. and I've done a little bit of everything. I eventually ended up as an engineer, retired in October 2020 with 42 years of service.
Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement here at the Hamlet Depot?
Right after I retired, Angie Avery, who was over the volunteers, approached me about volunteering, so I do that to try to, I'm kind of a rail fan also, so I like to see the rail history preserved as much as they can. A lot of it's disappearing and,
Yes.
and people just don't know, so.
Obviously, there was a part in the depot's life as a working depot. How did it come to be saved as a museum?
Well, we had a little museum in it years ago. Then the state got behind some high-speed rail service they wanted, and the state started going down the lines and through the state to see which stations they wanted to preserve. And this luckily was one that the really state got behind. And that's hence why it got moved and so it was a big part of the state. And the state's wanting the museum to preserve the history. They have Food Truck Fridays where we park food trucks, and they had some kind of adult games last night. And so we try to put on little events to draw people down here. And the Food Truck Friday has been a real success because we draw people that normally wouldn't come. They come to eat and end up in the depot.
Yeah. And one thing I think you'll notice is how this museum is kind of woven into the community around them, because I know a lot of the events here are also kind of in part with the town.
Right. So we try to work with the town, the county, anybody we can just to get people down here. And it's kind of like the Field of Dreams, build it and they'll come.
Yeah.
Feed them and they'll come.
Yeah. So one thing you also notice here is they have a model train layout.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's supposed to be a replica of Hamlet in the 50s, and it kind of speaks for itself.
And look at the details. This took about a year to fix. Now Hamlet was one of the first. We always said we were the first and bragging about the first. But we were the first to have Coca-Cola Bottling Company here.
I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to a very special person. The reason why I make these videos is to share my love of railroading with you all in hopes that you will bring your family and friends to these special places. On January 26th, 2023, the World of Railroading Preservation gave a green signal to Matthew Bumgardner. I say the world of railroading preservation because rail fans share a sincere love for railroad conservation all around the globe. Matt's love for railroading and railroad history was infectious to anyone who he talked trains with. It was the love of conservation that inspired him and his friends to save the Newton Depot and create the Southeastern Narrow Gauge and Shortline Museum. The following footage was recorded October 8, 2022, during the 100th birthday celebration of the number 50 steam locomotive. I want to thank Matt for giving me the opportunity to showcase the Newton Depot and the Southeastern Narrow Gauge and Shortline Museum. As we explore the museum, I hope you will appreciate Matt's work and dedication to the depot and the museum. I hope you will come in person to see his work for yourself. On our visit to the Southeastern Narrow Gauge and Shortline Museum, it is only fitting with our arrival that we start at the historic Newton Depot. We turn right in the hallway towards the freight room. You can tell that this room handled freight because of the large sliding doors. As you can see, this is where they keep a majority of their railroad artifacts, many originating from the surrounding region. On the opposite end of the hallway is the passenger room. Now it is used for special meetings, gatherings, party rentals, and the like. Today, it is used to display a model railroad layout for a special event celebrating the 100th birthday of their steam locomotive. Of course, there's the excitement of seeing the model trains running and puffing smoke, but my favorite thing about visiting the model railroads is pushing the buttons on the displays and seeing what each of the little buildings and scenes do. My absolute favorite building is this Pepsi bottling facility. I really love the look of the white lights and the flashing Pepsi sign. Next door to the depot is the Model Railroad Center. Inside you will find even more model layouts. In addition to the model trains, You can purchase railroad merchandise and memorabilia. They have model trains, both big and small. This particular layout has the most detailed town that I have ever seen in person. Next, we head out to the Alexander Railroad Pavilion to see the full-scale trains. Just by walking around the museum campus, you notice the many restoration projects underway, like the Virginia Carolina No. 50 steam locomotive, which is celebrating its 100th birthday. This is the best place in the Southeast to not only learn about dual gauge railroading, but also work on standard and narrow gauge equipment. One of the recently acquired pieces of rolling stock is an Amtrak dining car. This car has served passengers hot meals throughout the United States on various Amtrak services. And the people involved here at the museum hope to serve food once again on the car. Out of all the equipment on display at the museum, the number 6 diesel locomotive is their pride and joy. I hope you have enjoyed this installment on the Hamlet Depot and Museums and the Southeastern Narrow Gauge and Shortline Museum. Both of these places are great representations of railroading preservation. Take a drive to Newton, North Carolina to see their beautiful green and yellow engine in operation, as well as the many model layouts on display. Visit the city of Hamlet, North Carolina, and see the depot that was picked up, moved, and serves once again as a station for rail passengers. So until next time, see you down the line.